Hello everyone. Happiness has become the new enlightenment, the new heaven, an unattainable goal, a finish line that keeps receding. When spiritual teachers, including myself, emphasize the importance and the value of happiness, something interesting happens. People start to feel as if something has gone wrong if they aren't happy. That only adds unhappiness to unhappiness. There is a kind of shame that arises within us when we are unhappy. This is especially painful when we identify with being unhappy. Some of us don't have any idea what happiness really is because we have never felt it. We feel the very worst about ourselves because we can't seem to get life right and be happy like other people can. We begin to feel like we are karmically destined to suffer. This issue of attaching to happiness is just a branch off of the tree of trying to get life right. When we feel as if we are happy, we feel like we are getting our life right. When we feel like we are unhappy, we feel like we are getting our life wrong. So we hold the belief that we should be happy even when we aren't happy. That compounds unhappiness. It perpetuates it. When we think that we should be happy when we're not happy, we start to resist our negative emotions. We feel bad about them. I've said it 1,000,000 times before, and I'm saying it again. Whatever we resist persists. So in thinking that we should be happy, in pushing against our negative emotions, we stay stuck in those negative emotions. When we become resistant to suffering and to our own unhappiness, the desire for happiness no longer feels good. It feels desperate because we want something we don't think we can have. We want happiness, but we don't think we can have it. So we are focused on suffering and on unhappiness. So what's the best thing we can do? Give up on happiness. This may sound odd and like a bit of a contradiction coming from someone like me who has dedicated their life to teaching people to reach happiness. But what you find is that these contradictory ideas are in fact complementary. If you give up on happiness, you are releasing resistance to suffering and/or unhappiness. Imagine that you lived your life in a continually flowing gale force wind. When you are resisting something, it's as if you are turned against that air current, face first. It's hard to breathe, it's hard to move because you're pushing against that strong air current. It's exhausting. When you stop resisting something, you allow the gale force wind to blow you wherever it wants to take you. Now imagine that this gale force wind has one prerogative, and that's to take you to everything that you've been asking for, to take you to that which is wanted. Now do you see the benefit of going with the wind? The universe is this gale force wind. I'm sure you've all heard of somebody who wanted a promotion for years. They wanted it desperately. They tried everything they could think of to get that promotion until one day it became so painful to want that promotion that they gave up on it and instead they started looking for a new job. And within hours or days they got that phone call telling them that they got the job. Now, it's tempting to think that this is an ironic, cruel joke that's being played by a malevolent universe. But the reality is, in the moment that the person gave up on that desire, they released resistance to what they did not want. And releasing resistance to what you don't want allows you to flow in the direction of what is wanted. You can't cause yourself to unwant something. So the person in this scenario didn't not want the promotion. You can't unwant something you want. So even though they still had that desire, giving up on getting it allowed them to release enough resistance that they got it. The universe already knows you want to be happy. That is the only thing you really ever wanted anyway. Everything else, that promotion, that boyfriend or girlfriend, that house, that car, is just a means to that end which is happiness. Not only does the universe know that you want happiness, the universe is calling you towards it, pushing you towards it. It is arranging all necessary conditions for your happiness. The only way the universe can achieve more expansion through your perspective is if you manage to align with and experience your own desires. So believe me, the universe will facilitate your happiness every step of the way. So what happens if you let yourself release resistance to being unhappy? What happens if you let yourself go with the wind? You allow yourself to flow in the direction of what you want, which is happiness. Think of this like a backdoor entry to happiness. All of the various beliefs that perpetuate unhappiness, like that we're karmically destined to suffer, they turn us against that gale force wind that is the universe. They make it so that we are in a state of resistance. But sometimes the state of resistance that is the most painful and does the most damage to us is our desperate quest for happiness. When we become desperate for something, that's because we have an acute awareness of the absence of that thing in our life. That's why the feeling of need has been identified as a feeling which comes from a space of lack. That means that you are focused on the absence of whatever it is that you want, and you can't be focused on the lack or absence of something and get what you want at the same time. It's a vibrational contradiction. Sometimes our awareness of our unhappiness and desperate desire for happiness is so strong that the path of least resistance is to release our attachment to happiness altogether. When happiness ceases to be our goal, where we are cannot be wrong or lacking in any way, because you cannot compare your now to your imagined future happiness. You cannot feel bad because you aren't there yet, when there isn't anywhere to get to. You cannot cause yourself to not want happiness, because you cannot cause yourself to unwant something that you want. But you can change your focus so that you're not focusing on the now as if the now is unwanted. The best way to let go of the destination we call happiness is to fall in love with what is. Fall in love with the now. The only reason that any being suffers is because they are currently believing a thought that contradicts what is. The should thoughts are the best example of this. If I am thinking I should be happy and I'm not, I'm believing a thought that contradicts what is. I'm in resistance to me in my current state. Our stress in life is caused by arguing with what is. Embrace the idea that what happened should have happened and was supposed to happen. Embrace the idea that nothing can go wrong, that everything that happens to us is actually happening for us. The reality is, no one wants to lose their job or have an argument with a loved one or get into an accident. But when we don't have complete control over our vibrations, and thus our point of attraction, these things happen. None of us maintains our vibration at a level where nothing ever happens to cause us to feel negative emotion. And so it isn't helpful to mentally argue with the things that happen by thinking that shouldn't have happened. Or I should be happy right now, even though this is happening to me. It is much better to begin switching your focus to embrace what is right here and now. Besides, if none of us are able to maintain a state where nothing ever happens to cause us to feel negative emotion, maybe we're not meant to maintain a vibrational state where nothing happens to ever cause us to feel negative emotion. Focus at what is with the intention of looking for what is right about it. What is right about what is? We want to focus for the positives inherent within the unwanted things. This does not only allow us to release resistance and thus feel emotionally better, it also makes it so we're changing our vibrational point of attraction, so we can't be a match to the unwanted thing anymore. I'll give you an example. One day I was on my way to a date I'd been looking forward to for weeks. I was super excited. And of course, I'm the kind of person who tends to feel as if I don't deserve things to go well. So when I was on my way, my car broke down. After my car broke down, I was sitting there after two men pushed my car to the side of the road thinking, this shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening to me? The universe seriously is out to get me. I was spiraling with that kind of thought process. I realized that it wasn't going to get me anywhere because I already understand the law of attraction, so I pulled out my positive aspects journal. I sat down. I started listing all of the positives that I could think about that particular situation I found myself in. So, on the top of the page, I wrote down, my car broke down. I made myself write a list of positive aspects about the car breaking down. I tried to look for proof that the car breaking down was right instead of wrong. For example, I broke down right next to the pull-off on the side of the road. The model of car I'm driving is simple to fix. The electricity in the car still works, so I'm listening to good music. There are tons of people willing to help in the city. This is an opportunity to practice being flexible. I'm happy that I'm focusing positively instead of negatively right now. I have no way of knowing that the date would be enjoyable or in alignment with my highest good. The leaves are blowing around on the street, and they are artistically beautiful, etc. I felt my mood lift. I felt relief. I was no longer in resistance to the fact that my car broke down. And you know what happens when you release resistance to your car being broken down? My car restarted. As the tow truck was on its way to me, it started as if nothing had ever happened. We can take this one step further when we have developed resistance to being unhappy because we want happiness so badly by looking for positives about being unhappy. Find approval for unhappiness. Start to look at being unhappy as if something has gone right. How is it right for me to be unhappy? I'll give you some examples. I suffered a big disappointment. Anyone in my position would feel this way or worse. Being unhappy causes me to know strongly what I don't want and thus strongly what I do want. Strong desires equal big expansion. It gives me clarity on my preferences. I am facilitating universal expansion by allowing the universe to know through my eyes what it is not. If we only experience happiness, we don't know what happiness is. Experiencing unhappiness leads us to self-exploration and self-discovery and introspection. It facilitates self-awareness. Being unhappy helps me to relate to other people that are unhappy. It can bring people together so there is an opportunity for collective healing. It makes for some really poignant art. Unhappiness is very grounding and it puts into perspective what really matters. Being unhappy makes you so uncomfortable that it forces you to have to move forward and to get unstuck in one way or another. Another thing we can do to let go of happiness so as to get happiness is to set a more attainable goal than happiness. To most of us, happiness seems so far outside of our reach we don't believe it's attainable. And because of that belief, it isn't attainable. So what we need to do is to find something which seems more attainable that is on the way to happiness, but is not all the way there. It is up to you to decide what feels like an attainable desire for you. One example of a more attainable desire is 3 moments of contentment per day. Another example of a more attainable desire is a feeling of fulfillment at least one time each day. Once you set your attainable goal, you can facilitate it on a daily basis. You will find that reaching this particular goal is a lot easier than trying to strive for happiness. To most of us, trying to reach for happiness is like trying to jump from here to the moon, as opposed to jumping a ditch. So what you want to do is set little goals, little ditches on the way to the moon, instead of force yourself to jump all that way. Because when you're looking at the distance between where you are and where you want to be, when where you want to be is happiness, you will become completely discouraged, as opposed to looking at where you are and where you want to be, when where you want to be seems like it's an attainable place to be. Another way of letting go of happiness is to realize that happiness for you is a goal. Because of this, it is like a receding finish line or a horizon line that you will never cross. The closer you move to what you think happiness is, the further it goes off into the distance. When happiness is about attaining your desires, and your desires will never cease expanding, you will never truly achieve happiness. Sometimes realizing that you will never achieve the goal of happiness helps you to stop chasing it in the distance and find a contentment with where you are. Contentment does not mean resignation. It doesn't make you lazy or passive or apathetic. Doing this just helps you to be able to enjoy the process of life instead of obsessively chase the promise of future happiness. When you are stuck in negative emotions, you do not have access to pure positive emotional states. In fact, all focus on pure positive emotional states like happiness does is to allow you to feel where you aren't, to allow you to feel how happy you aren't. It increases the gap between where you are and where you want to be, which is why sometimes the best way to let go of happiness is to stop focusing on happiness and start focusing on relief instead. No matter where you are vibrationally and emotionally, you always have access to the feeling of relief. And relief is the byproduct of release. Release causes relief. When you are feeling guilty, thinking a thought, which is an angry feeling thought, causes you to feel relief because that thought causes you to release your attachment to guilt. That release of guilt causes you to feel the relief of moving into the emotional space of anger. So it's the release of a negative emotional state that causes the sensation of relief when you're going in the direction of a positive emotional state. You're allowing yourself to flow in the direction that gale force wind wants to push you. I want to repeat this because it's so important. Any release of a lower vibration and movement into a higher vibration will feel emotionally like relief. So chase relief instead of happiness. Perhaps the best way to do this is to become aware of the only choice that exists for you in the present moment. At all moments of the day, you have one option: better or worse. The thought, which feels better or worse. The words, which feel better or worse. The actions, which feel better or worse. If you are able to live your day thought by thought, word by word, action by action, in the direction of what feels better, then you are flowing with the current of the universe in the direction of what is wanted, and what is wanted is happiness, so you are allowing yourself to flow in the direction of happiness. Choosing what feels better will feel like relief. Choosing what feels worse will feel like stress. So live your life not according to happiness, but according to what feels better. Thoughts are what cause us to feel unhappy, and a thought is powerless and painless until we believe it. Have mercy for your thoughts. Meet them with understanding. They are not out to get you. They are not hell-bent on hurting you. If you can stop believing the thoughts you think, if you can withhold your commitment to whether they are true or not, they have no power over the way you feel. You are not your suffering. You are not your story. You are not even your identity. Nothing has gone wrong if you are suffering. If you are suffering or feeling something which is unwanted, you are exploring the conditions necessary for you to know what is wanted. All you need to do to go in the direction of what is wanted is to allow yourself to choose to go in the direction of what feels emotionally better. Our attachment to happiness and our striving towards happiness is what causes us to resist unhappiness and thus perpetuate it in our own lives. So here I am today telling you, if you want to be happy, release your attachment to happiness. Stop making happiness your ultimate goal. It already is the reason you do everything that you do, and the universe knows that. So we have to get to a space, if we want to be happy, where we understand that happiness is not something out there which you attain. Happiness is an ever-present essence, which must instead be allowed. Have a good week.